on TV, online and on your smartphone. This is Ticker News.
So next time you send a thumbs up emoji as a response to a question, remember this: it may now be considered to be an agreement of a legally binding contract. That's what a judge has just ruled, but why? I'm Aaron Young, we're going to find out.
Now from our headquarters at Ticker Park, this is Ticker Today.
Welcome. So sending a thumbs up emoji may now actually be considered the agreement of a legally binding contract. The thumbs up emoji proved pivotal in a case involving farmer Chris Actor of Swift Current and a 2021 deal to sell 87 metric tons of flax to a grain buyer. He signed the contract for the deal, then texted a picture of it to Actor and then wrote, "Please confirm flax contract." Actor then responded with a thumbs up emoji. When Actor did not send the flax to the other guy, Mickleborough, the grain buyer, he then filed a lawsuit stating that he thought the thumbs up emoji was an agreement to the contract. So let's actually find out what has happened. We'll bring in attorney and CEO of AR Media, Andrew Rossow. Thumbs up to you, sir. This is a big deal and something that I think a lot of people had never thought could be this serious.
It definitely is, and it's just a reflection, Aaron, of where we are in our digital age and the technology that we've become so reliant upon every day.
Yeah, so talk to us about what actually are the main elements of this case.
So right here, we are exploring, or the court explored, what it means to have a legally binding contract. And for any contract to be enforceable, to be valid, you have to have an offer, first and foremost. You have to have clear terms on what's being communicated, what's being presented. And then you have to have acceptance, right? You have to have a clear form of acceptance where the other recipient to the agreement is understanding the terms that are being presented. And lastly, a mutual exchange of value or consideration. There's got to be a mutual benefit on both sides for people entering into a prospective arrangement.
I think a lot of us use emojis, though, particularly if we're in a really busy environment. It might be sitting in the passenger seat of a car. It might be about to start the car. It might be about to go into a meeting. And if the question here was, please confirm flax contract, the thumbs up could mean I'll get to it. It may not necessarily mean I agree.
And that's where the court really spent a lot of its time trying to identify what these potential meanings of the emoji in this case represented, and try to harmonize that or weigh it against the common definition of what it means to accept something or give a thumbs up to something.
Well, talk to us about that. What sort of factors do courts actually look at for determining acceptance when it comes to a contract?
So first and foremost, you have to look at the terms of this offer. Are there material or essential terms that guide the entire span of the agreement to where a reasonable person can then look at it, or somebody outside of these two parties, and say, you know what, this looks like an agreement. This looks right. And what the court did here was spent a lot of time looking at, first, what kind of contract was it, right? This is a contract for shipping grain. And here, they explored the length of the relationship. They explored the course of dealing between these two parties over a period of time. And then what were those traditional or typical responses between both parties when it came to having these business dealings?
And it's just so subjective, right? So I'll give you a bit more detail that we have here. So at the time, I understood this to be, this is a quote, that Chris was agreeing to the contract and this was a way of signaling the agreement. On the other side, the guy who gave the thumbs up emoji said that in his deposition that he didn't intend for the emoji to be a signature or agreement of the contract. So that becomes the clear delineation between how they both feel. He says, I confirm that the thumbs up emoji simply confirmed that I received the flax contract. Usually we talk about handshake agreements not necessarily being something that courts can uphold in the past. We've seen, and then other times they can. And then you have other situations where what's written on a contract, signature compared to initials, compared to a name. We live in, as you mentioned, a really digital world. It's getting really confusing as to what is an actually signed contract if it can now just be an emoji.
And we have the smartphone era to thank for that, right? The ability to quickly respond or lend our acknowledgement and or agreement to something has opened the doorways to which business relationships and transactions can move more expediently. And what we have here is that conflict between understanding how is an emoji being used. In this case, how does a thumbs up relate to the bargain before them? Is it merely just an acknowledgement of I hear you, I see you, I've read this, or is it something more? And in this case, the court said there's something more.
Yeah, well, the judge actually, let's read what he said here. He didn't accept the excuse that actually the thumbs up was about buying time to read the contract, which he said that when he gave the thumbs up, he actually hadn't seen what the contract, this is a defendant here, but he says a non-traditional means of a thumbs up means to sign a document, but nevertheless, under these circumstances, this was a valid way to convey the acceptance of the flax contract. We have all sorts of apps on smartphones that you can digitally sign things. I get sent them all the time. I think you probably do as well. There's a difference if I say to you, for example, Andrew, I'd love to chat to you every week, and you give me a thumbs up, compared to there being monetary value involved and agreements and deals and stipulations. Surely that requires something more than just a thumbs up. But in this case, it didn't. Talk to us about what the ramifications would be.
Right. So in this case, the court actually looked at the length of the relationship between these two parties, and they were transacting since 2015. 8 years of business dealings, 15 to 20 different types of contracts. But then you have COVID that came, right? And forced everyone to go digital, forced everyone to go remote, to where when these two parties were transacting, it wasn't uncommon for a party to send a screenshot of that contract with the phrase, do you agree? Does this contract work? Can you confirm? To which a response of, yep, good, this works, was acceptable in the same way that a pen and paper signature would be. And so what we're seeing here is in Canada, an emoji like a thumbs up does equate to a digital signature.
Which is a brand new thing and a really interesting point, right? And that's been something that the judge has had a look at here from his perspective. We're not talking about shrimp change here. We're talking about a $61,000 contract that we're talking about. Now, if you think to yourself about maybe when you drop the car off to get it serviced and you get a text message from the mechanic saying you need new tires, are you happy to proceed? And you give a thumbs up, you would expect that that thumbs up is to say yes, to go ahead with this. And I guess that's the other side of it. We do now enter a world where you don't want to have a contract for absolutely everything. I guess what I'm surprised about is that when you're talking about $61,000, that a thumbs up is deemed to be acceptable by a judge compared to actually having time to review and to sign. And I think that's probably core to this. It no longer seems to be about the difference between some new tires on your car, thumbs up, go ahead with it, and a bigger business deal. It's now the same.
Very much so. And that's a really expensive emoji, right? That is a huge, huge change in our legal landscape to just reflect how we use emojis in our everyday communications. So here, looking at timing, right? The expediency of moving a relationship forward and being able to say, look, these are similar terms that you've seen before when we've worked together. We've done this over and over. The terms of the arrangement have not changed. The material aspects of these contracts have not changed. Do you agree? Do you want us to move forward? So I agree with you that there really isn't a difference.
And I guess in terms of Actor, the guy who copped this lawsuit and now has to pay the money, don't send a thumbs up emoji in a response, say, I will check it out, I'll get back to you, right?
We have to be very careful how we use emojis, specifically the thumbs up or thumbs down, when we're in a business type relationship, when we are talking business details, legal arrangements via text, via email.
Yeah, all right. We are speaking to Andrew Rossow. When we come back, Amazon Prime Day, and so many of these shopping days are great for shoppers, but also great for scammers. Do stay with us.